Hi, this is Dominick. I am joined this evening with John Eggemeyer from Castle Creek.
Good to be here.
Great to have you. You know, I've talked a little bit during Acquire Be Acquired about certain books that I've enjoyed reading. One of them is by Andy Grove, and it's all about only the paranoid survive. Well, I don't want to talk about paranoia, but I do want to talk about pragmatism. So as we think about where we are as an industry and we look ahead to 2020, I want to get John's take on a few leadership trends. You know, when I think about running a company, I tend to think of the people, the products, and the performance in that order. By that, I mean, if you have the right people in place, then you can think about the products or services that you're offering. And if you have those first two parts of the equation, then your financial performance should be a little bit more attainable. So I want to use that to basically frame a few questions I have for John. So John is probably one of the most active and successful investors in bank stocks. Castle Creek has been doing this for a long time, and John's portfolio of companies has been tremendously successful. So if we think about high-performing banks and what their CEOs and leadership teams have done, I think we've got a great resource here. Again, people, products, performance is how we're going to address this. And when we think of banks today, what are the people issues that you're dealing with?
Well, I think the people issues are critical, and I think it's one of the difficult things to get over. You really need people who can keep it simple. I mean, you need a simple message, and you need to have transparency in the delivery of that message. And frankly, those two instincts are not natural to most people. I found over my career in banking that too many people were brought up through a system where to take aggressive action and to fail is to be punished. It's interesting, in the U.S. military, if a commander makes a mistake, his career is over. In the British military, if you make a mistake, it's viewed as part of your learning experience. And I think that we would benefit as an industry, and frankly, across industry, not just in banking, at having people who are more comfortable with making decisions, living with the consequences of those, and adjusting based on the outcome.
Well, what's interesting is that Greg Carmichael, who's the CEO of Fifth Third, yesterday morning really implored everyone to let your people fail and then fix it fast.
Right.
So
I agree completely.
First part is the people side. Now we're going to talk a little bit about products, because at Acquire Be Acquired this year, we have a number of fintech companies that are offering their service and support to banks looking to really accelerate their digital transformation. I'm curious about the products really on the commercial side that you think are kind of compelling.
Well, I thought you were going to go to the consumer side, and before I answer.
Well, let's go to the consumer side.
So, as you know, I'm on the board of Bancorp,
Yep.
which is the largest processor of prepaid cards in the country. But they're also the back office to probably the most rapidly growing challenger bank in the country, Chime. And so, as I think about the consumer business as a bank, I look at Chime serving millennials, who, by the way, will get older and not always be millennials.
Yep.
But Chime is growing at 20 or 25% a quarter, at a staggering pace. And we as an industry need to acknowledge that. They're not making money at this point. It's another issue, which I know you will get to in here. But the transformation that's occurring on the technology side, on the consumer side, is really impressive.
Right.
It is harder to do on the commercial side. What we've seen over the last 10 or 15 years are the very largest banks trying to do to middle market and small business what they did to consumer.
Yep.
They're trying to build a fixed product set and basically challenge you to conform to the way they want to do business. We've made a living by finding banks that are selling service to commercial customers rather than selling product.
Yeah.
We'll see how that plays out over time. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, the interesting part about the consumer, as you said, is it's fast moving. On the commercial side, one of the things I heard here at the conference was all around artificial intelligence and how businesses are starting to really use it for back office automation and to become a little bit more efficient in the way they do business when it comes to regulatory compliance and other, pattern detection of fraud or cybersecurity concerns. So last piece, is, again, near and dear to our hearts. It's about performance and the financial performance of a bank in 2020. You have compressed margins, you've got a flattened yield curve, you have all these different forces that people are talking about when it comes to what makes for a strong performing bank. What's your opinion about what makes for strong performance in 2020?
Well, I begin from the premise where you started. It is a challenging environment coming up. A flat yield curve and rates that are not moving and not showing a prospect of moving is very difficult for a bank that depends on spread.
Right.
Secondly, we are late in an economic cycle and everybody anticipates higher losses. They will be higher. I just don't know when. And I don't think that's an immediate issue that we need to concern ourselves about, but it is an issue.
Yeah.
So as I look at the year, I think that this will be, without a change in either of those dynamics, it's going to be a year about how can you figure out how to be more efficient, number one. And number two, the banks that are going to do the best will be those that are less dependent on spread income and more dependent on fee income.
Right. Well, you're hearing it from John, so I can't do anything more than to say thanks for sharing your time. Thanks for listening in on this particular recap of Acquire Be Acquired. As we've done over the last few years and also the last few days, we're sharing everything on our social media channels, most notably using the hashtag AOBA20.